I've been called a lot of things. El Jefe, the savior of humanity, the boomstick butcher with the chainsaw hand. The truth is, I'm just your everyday, charming, ruggedly handsome dude from Michigan. I didn't ask for any of this, but when evil picked a fight with Ashley J. Williams, they picked the wrong dude.
Hello everyone, this is Associate Professor Gansnobi, Department of Gaming. I'm coming to talk about Leader Ash and trying to play him at the competitive level. But first we need to talk about the build. So let's talk about his ability here, Show Up and Blow Up. At P5 it is reduced to 25 seconds. The radius stays the same at 13 feet. And balance bar goes from 150 to 180. This ability is useful in certain situations. The good thing is you can spam it every 25 seconds, but the downside is that you're stuck in the animation. If the unit is coming after you and focusing you, it's not going to be useful to use this ability, and you could possibly go down. El Jefe is his buff that he provides his team. This is increased at P1 from 15% to 20% for damage, and fear resistance is increased from 20 to 25%. Now, sounds very good on paper, but I'll explain why it's not good enough later on the video. Old friends start the match with the chainsaw. This is awful. I do not like this. The only good thing about this is that you could drop the chainsaw to a warrior ash, but you mostly want to use like a mace, a sledge, something that's going to destroy balance bar. It'd be better if you had the mastery, but there's only one character that has a mastery, and it's Warrior Ash. El Jefe Grande, this is the part where you really need to be proccing this all the time for him to be effective and better than the other leaders. Because if this is up all the time, that means the other survivors are doing 17% more damage. It says 100% of the improvement in aura, which is for damage and fear resistance. Also, the damage numbers of me proccing this and me not having it. So fear resistance is very good against the original demons. Puppeteer, Plague. Let's see. Plague, Warlord, Necro. Now, the reason I say this sounds good on paper is because you think that this fear resistance would be good enough for a ball. It is not good enough. The only thing that would be good for Leader Ash is if you spec yourself into Fear No Evil, and then you won't be feared up. But the rest of your team are still going to get max fear. So even with Fear No Evil, they're still going to get max fear. Now, I'm going to explain a team comp that'll work with this, where you don't need to spec into Fear No Evil as Leader Ash. And the reason I don't think he's very good with ball is because you're not going to be able to proc finishers against good ball players. They're going to use proxies, and they're going to use their traps. So you're going to be marked for 6 seconds, which ends up means you have to have tougher than hell just to combat the mark damage. And even if you're good at dodging against a good ball player, you're going to get pinballed. And you're going to take that damage, and you're going to go down as Leader Ash. So even though on paper he does seem like a good leader, to go up against ball, he's not good enough. His fear resistance is not good enough, and you need other characters to help him with the fear resistance. Now, that's the whole reason why I'm not expecting to fear no evil, or tougher than hell, is because you need to proc finishers for him to be beneficial for his team to get El Jefe Grande procced. For that to happen, you need to have Balance Bar and Devastating Force to immediately proc those finishers. And that's what you're going to be doing most of the game, is just continually doing finishers. And this is another reason why I don't think Leader Ash is a very good leader, because the other leaders have the ability to clear mobs, while Leader Ash does not have that ability. He has to be stuck in finishers to be any benefit to his team. Now, you could do a finisher, then have a one-shot weapon like a blunderbuss or a crossbow, and then, take advantage of that damage increase. And that's why I have Wick Splitter on here as well. So I'm going to be able to do damage on the possessed unit to help my team. Now, what you do is you proc a finisher, and then you're going to have that one-shot weapon, and then you can go for a headshot on the possessed unit to help your team with damage. But think of any other leader, right? You don't have to do that. You don't have to do a finisher. You don't have to proc dismemberment, right? Because you could take a hunting rifle, right? Shoot an arm off a unit, and then go for the headshot with your next bullet, or use a saw gun. And this is why I have deep pockets, because you're wasting a ton of ammo also on top of that to proc dismemberment, right? Because you're taking 2 shots just to proc your ability, 1, and then to get the headshot damage. So that's why I have Devastating Force as well, so I could do a finisher, use the blunderbuss, get the headshot, and then continue doing finishers to proc El Jefe Grande. I don't think the last word is necessary. It's not enough damage compared to Wick Splitter and Hollow Points. As you can see, it goes up to 25% here, and only 15% for Devastating Force. So it's not really that useful. Because of that, he's not a good leader against Ball. The only time he would be good against Ball is if you paired him off with certain characters. And the characters you would pair him off with would be Brock, who would be the sort of warrior that you would need, right? And he would have fast forward, and he'd be able to sort of pick people off the ground, providing fear resistance as well, because you need that as well. But you don't only need Brock. You need Support Ash or Shout to drink ships to reduce fear. And then you can go with either Warrior Ash to help you, but I would suggest actually going with Hunter Ash, who's better, because you could spec into Fear No Evil with Hunter Ash, and he could benefit from both of these fear resistance. And then you would have a better chance of proccing El Jefe, because Warrior Ash needs to do finishes to proc amulets as well. So while he's doing a bulk of the damage and taking care of the basics, you could be just proccing El Jefe Grande to help him most of the time. And then if anybody goes down against Ball, Brock can come and pick them up. Plus, Support Ash can be marking targets and doing melee as well, thanks to El Jefe Grande being procced as well. So, in all this, it creates this synergy. And that's why you need spec in for damages as Leader Ash as well, because to just be spec'd into Fear No Evil and Tougher Than Hell, and then have Brock, the only damage you're going to have is from Hunter Ash. It's not going to be enough against Ball. So, unfortunately, Leader Ash ends up being on this kind of sideline here, where he needs to be paired with a different leader. Where it's Leader Ash and Ruby, or Leader Ash, Arthur, Leader Ash, and Ruby. These are the characters you need to run with Leader Ash to be effective with him. And in the sense, I don't think he's better than Brock. Because you could just run Brock against Ball with the build I just showed, and any other character, and still find benefits. You can go Brock, right? Warrior Ash, Hunter Ash, and Support Ash or Cheryl, and get the damage resistance. Or you can go Brock, Scotty, Ed, and David, and then, or Blacksmith even, and have benefit from that, because then you're going to get that extra healing. So in this way, Brock is a better leader than Leader Ash. That fear resistance is not enough. And the damage increase isn't enough, because Ruby is better. And so is Annie. Even though Ruby doesn't provide that 17% increase, it's only that 20%. But she provides stamina, she provides cooldown reduction, she provides all this stuff. Now, I'm not talking shit about Leader Ash in general. Like, if you enjoy playing him, I 100% understand. Enjoy playing him, keep playing him. But I'm just saying, in the competitive scene, he's not going to be viable unless if you run him with another leader to help boost his damage. and also help with the fear resistance from that. Like, you need to run Leader Ash in Ruby just so that he could get the damage resistance, so he doesn't need to spec into Tougher Than Hell. And that's just kind of sad to see him at this level where nobody plays him because he's just not good enough. And the thing that he provides that you would think would be best against Ball is not good enough. He's, in my opinion, what I thought Ed was going to be, where Ed is going to disarm all these traps against Ball, but then Ball has so many like tools in his toolkit that he could just disable Ed's flashlight. You could fear him up by using proxies, or you can even summon boss and then depossess boss so that Ed can't even use his flashlight to disarm the traps. So it becomes entirely useless. And then Ed becomes a liability because he's providing high rarity weapons for his team. And then Ball is going to possess those teammates and then down the whole team with legendary weapons. So in this way, Ed becomes a complete liability to run. The only good thing he does is provide more shemps, but that's RNG. And I'm talking about Leader Ash like, well, people say, like, run him with a grenade launcher. Yeah, the problem with that is that, once again, it's RNG that you're going to proc Dismemberment. Now, there are techniques where you can proc Dismemberment. For instance, thanks to Matt VPN, he informed me of a situation where you could continuously hit a finished enemy. So if you have Warrior Ash doing a finish on an enemy, you could continuously use the chainsaw on that finished enemy, and it could proc Dismemberment. But once again, that's RNG, and that's not what I'm about when it comes to competitive level. At the competitive level, you can't rely on RNG. It has to be based off your skill to win games. You can't just rely on luck to win. And that's what El Jefe Grande is at this point. It's either you do the finisher or you get lucky with Dismemberment. But the only way you could do that, guaranteed Dismemberment with a gun, is the Saw Gun, which is an awful weapon, or the Hunting Rifle, which is guaranteed as well after one shot. But you're going to be taking Long Gun from your Hunter. And just to make that viable, you need to have deep pockets, just so you can proc it more often and then take advantage of that. Because why would you proc Dismemberment with a Hunting Rifle and then, start meleeing? It doesn't make sense. So unfortunately, this is the build that is competitive, but you need to run another leader to help him out. Like, the reason why he is good is because the potential DPS you could provide for your team if you're running Leader Ash, doing El Jefe Grande, and Annie. Think of the damage that a Hunter Ash is going to be doing with a double barrel. It's going to be way more if you run Ruby and Annie. The only reason why you would run Ruby and Annie is because then you would have that damage resistance on top of getting your cooldowns faster, so you'd be able to proc Annie's ability quicker. So that's what I think about Leader Ash at the competitive level. And I'll show some clips of me proccing an El Jefe Grande and different ways you can do it. So thank you for watching, and enjoy the clips.
Hope you took your vitamins. It's time to dance. What? You never saw a guy with a chainsaw hand before? Not my first rodeo. That, my friends, is how we do. You're welcome. When you get back to hell, practice your aim. It's gonna hurt you way more than it's gonna hurt me. That, my friends, is how we do. You're welcome. Lifetime of kicking. You're welcome.
So, hello everyone. Normally I don't do outros in my video. I like to provide my proof, talk about what I think about the character and the build, but in this video it's going to be a little bit different. I realize I have a perspective problem when it comes to playing Leader Ash, and also just playing leaders in general. I normally play leader for my team, and because I play leader for my team most of the time, I realize I don't really get to see the benefits of using that certain leader. So I'm here to ask you guys, everyone that's watching this video, what leader do you find is best to run with? And if you were to choose, make a list of leaders from best to worst, how would you rate it? Because for me, Leader Ash is almost dead last. A lot of people think Arthur's last. I do have a bias towards Arthur because he was my first level 25 character in this game. But I also have the thought like, well, I'm going to be providing 25 damage for melee, and that's going to help my support Ash. It's going to help my blacksmith with damage and stuff. When it's only at 20% with Leader Ash, and support Ash can just reduce fear, while Leader Ash just fear resistance. So in this way, I feel like Arthur is a little bit better, and he can reduce his own fear by using his ability, which also increases 25% more melee damage. So then that support Ash is doing even more healing, and the blacksmith is doing even more melee damage compared to using Leader Ash. So this is why I kind of rate Arthur above Leader Ash. But to be honest, like I said, it's just a perspective problem that I'm suffering from right now. So I would like to know everybody's opinion on Leader Ash. This is going to be a two-part series. The reason I'm making this a two-part series is because the first part is going to be a discussion about Leader Ash, and the second part is actually the gameplay on how to use Leader Ash effectively and trying to proc El Jefe Grande as frequently as possible, and how to deal with book phase. I feel like Leader Ash is probably one of the best leaders against Necro, next to Ruby. And my whole thought was like, okay, let me make Leader Ash a mini Ruby, or better than Ruby, during book phase. And he essentially can against Necro, right? Yes, she provides a damage resistance for Team Ruby. Yes, she has an Aura Blast. But she doesn't do enough damage towards Evil Ash to be affected. So, if you proc Dismemberment with Leader Ash, with a hunting rifle, then show up and blow up, knocking units away from book so that your hunter has a clear shot on Evil Ash, you have the potential to kill Evil Ash very quickly. And your whole goal should be proc Dismemberment, show up and blow up, and then use your other shot with the hunting rifle or blunderbuss, whatever you're using, to start damaging Evil Ash. If you want to use a grenade launcher, which I don't recommend because it's not very good at proccing Dismemberment against Evil Ash's units, it's very good against Warlord and sometimes Ball. If the unit is dying, it's good to shoot it with a grenade launcher, but that requires a lot of timing and practice to proc. So yeah, once again, it's a two-part series, and thank you everyone for watching this one. And please leave your comments and your opinions down in the comment section. So maybe I could make this a three-part series and talk about a list of the best to worst leaders and everybody's opinion on that. So thank you so much for watching.